Thanks, Jan. Yes, so hello, Pete from Mixergy. So at Mixergy, our core focus is around decarbonising home energy. But how do we do this in a world where we've got increasing solar rooftop PV, but at the same time offshore wind? And how do we do this in a power network which was originally designed for things like gas boilers, but which is now having to contend with things like heat pumps and EV chargers? One common answer would be to install a battery and a home energy management system. And there's some really cool technologies in this space. I mean, I've geeked out on superconductors, different battery chemistries. There's some really cool stuff going on in dielectrics and supercapacitors, currently lab scale still, alas, but could really be transformative. But at Mixergy, we've been aware of a phenomenal chemical substance which has the best properties you could really hope for thermal energy storage. I am, of course, talking about thermally stratified hot water. Aside from having a supply chain in every home, at least in the developed world, water has some really amazing thermal characteristics which makes it a great medium for thermal energy storage. So it has the highest heat capacity of any liquid that we know of, but it's also got a really low thermal conductivity. It's as low as plastic, which means that we can preserve a really stratified temperature distribution for a long time, which means that the energy is available at a useful temperature for as long as you could hope for. And finally, the thermal expansion coefficient of water is spot on. It's large enough to ensure that you have a nice, stable thermocline, so the hot and cold stays really nice and segregated, but it's not so large that you have spontaneously exploding hot water tanks. So these are the three musketeers, the three characteristics of hot water, which makes it a great thermal energy storage material. And in terms of hot water tanks, they're also a great prospect for energy storage in a home, because a hot water tank has a quarter of the embodied carbon as compared with a comparable battery system, and it's 10 times cheaper. What's more, it has a near infinite life cycle. And as we improve the insulation in homes, and we do things like recovering heat from the ventilation system in passive houses, it's the hot water that becomes the really dominant component of energy consumption in the home. So hot water tanks are really getting at the forefront of this space, but there's a problem, because conventional hot water tanks are slow, inefficient, and dumb. They're effectively giant kettles. They heat all or nothing, irrespective of how much you need. And we know from the thousands of tanks that we have installed across the UK that actually we only need half the capacity of a tank in practice. And for this reason, we launched the Mixergy tank, which is, in contrast, fast, efficient, and smart. It only heats what you need, and by virtue of that, it's 10 times quicker at getting to a useful temperature and uses a fifth less energy. And when customers are installing a Mixergy tank, they're actually taking their first step on the path to net zero for their home. How do we do this? Well, what we do, simply, is we leverage thermal stratification. We ensure that the heating happens top-down rather than wastefully heating all of the water inside. And at the same time, we've developed a novel, flexible sensor. It's a flexible circuit which sticks onto the tank, and it resolves the state of charge at every instant in time as the tank's being used. And that data goes to our software platform. And through our software platform, we can control it, either through our app or a third-party device like a home speaker. And from this software platform, we can also coordinate the control of the Mixergy tank with other assets, like the EV charger or the heat pump or the solar PV, to optimize the home energy management of the system, centered around the hot water tank. But fundamentally, this unlocks our mission, which is to absorb surplus renewable energy, which we do in response to tariffs which respond to surpluses of wind or solar energy. And in this instance behind me, we have a customer who was paid the equivalent of 30 euro cents to have a third of their tank heated early in the morning when there was a surplus of wind in the northwest of Scotland in this case. And at that point, the grid carbon intensity that you can see in the bottom graph was at its lowest throughout the day. We're doing this whilst also providing services to the grid, namely frequency response. So every Mixergy tank that's installed today is unlocking recurring grid service value today. And over the lifetime of the tank, we can save for the customer in excess of €3,000. And that's in part because the Mixergy tank is really agnostic about where the energy source comes from. So it's relevant for whatever energy system you might have over the life of the home. We will reduce gas consumption in a conventional boiler by 20%, but we're also able to switch dynamically from gas to low carbon off-peak electricity as soon as our software detects that that's in the interest of the homeowner. The Mixergy tank, the same Mixergy tank, can also maximize the self-consumption of PV because of the way in which we only heat what you need. And all systems are heat pump ready, which is great because we've got the world's leading heat pump solution. The Mixergy tank with an integrated heat pump delivers a fifth better COP, 20% greater COP, whilst also reducing the refrigerant that you need in each system by over a third. At the same time, we're also delivering this faster reheat performance. And consequently, with these value propositions, we're seeing tremendous growth in each segment that we're in throughout the UK. So we started with British Gas, who launched us through national distribution, but laterally we started to grow most quickly throughout regular installers and in the new build development sector, where we've got some regulatory endorsement. And as a consequence, our revenue growth has been just around 3.5 year-on-year growth to date. Our first year of trading was 180k, this jumped to 860k, and this year we're on track to do just over 2 million in revenue. And this is going to continue because we sit at the nexus of two mega trends. So mega trend one is the growth in the market for hot water tanks. Every heat pump install needs a hot water tank. And over this decade, we're going to see the market for hot water tanks grow to be a third bigger than it is today. At the same time, over the same time span, demand-side response, the demand for flexibility of domestic assets is going to have to grow tenfold according to the International Energy Agency. So we're really well positioned as a smart tank that can do grid services. And when we're installing a tank, we're not installing a tank. We're actually installing a node in the home, which unlocks recurring value over its life. Each system is heat pump ready, so it can accommodate a gas boiler today, a heat pump tomorrow. But each system is also able to last for 25 years. It uses marine-grade stainless steel, so the thousands of tanks installed throughout the UK will be there at net zero at 2050. And we're unlocking all sorts of recurring value, whether it's the grid, whether it's the tariff, whether it's recurring warranty through our in-app purchasing system. So if you'd like to join us and help scale this throughout Europe and beyond, then please reach out. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Jan.